Hi guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, this is Millennia Immigration Consultancy, where we discuss matters immigration, visa processes, work permits, permanent residency, student visas, and any other kind of immigration assistance you may need. So once again, my name is Omboy, and today's video, as you can read from um, the description below, is about what to do when a Schengen visa has been denied. And the Schengen area is a region in Europe consisting of, I think, 26 countries that you can visit. So when you get a Schengen visa, it means that you can visit to all those other 26 countries. So these are countries, it's almost the whole of Europe, because new and new members keep signing up for the Schengen region. But the main ones that are mainly applied for, especially by Kenyans, are countries like Germany. Yeah, Germany is a very popular destination for Kenyans. France, Poland, Belgium, Croatia, Czech Republic, Austria. The other countries I have seen be very common are Estonia, Lithuania, Luxembourg. So yeah, basically it's a whole bunch of so many countries in Europe, Spain, Italy, all those countries. So now, what you need to understand about the Schengen visa is that, well, there are different categories of visa, but today's video we will be talking about the visit visa, which allows you to go for a visit, maybe a holiday, a vacation, for not more than 3 months, or for business purposes, to go and conduct some business, or for a conference or a meeting or something that is work related, as long as it's a short-term visa that grants you entry into the Schengen region, not more than 3 months. So now, if you've been watching my channel, you know that I have discussed in many other previous videos the requirements that are needed for this kind of visas. It really doesn't matter whether it's Australia, Schengen, US, Canada, UK. The requirements for visit visas are usually, they cut across the board. They are almost the same for every country. Of course, some countries are more keen on particular documentation, but basically they are almost the same. So now that we've already discussed on the basic requirements for visa application, and I'm sure that many of you have either tried to apply for a Schengen visa, maybe to visit a friend or family, or just for a solo travel, or a vacation, or you have previously applied for this type of a visa and it's been refused in the past. This video is for you. So I do get a lot of clients who are mainly having friends in Europe, in one of the Schengen countries, and they come and tell me that they already have an invitation letter. What's the next step? Well, the next step after getting an invitation letter is applying for the visa, because if you have a friend or a host on the other side, they can write you an invitation letter stating the nature of your relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, or it's a friendship, or it's family, or it's a business partnership or business relationship, whatever dynamic of your relationship. As long as you're going to visit someone, or you're going to be staying in someone's house, then it's very important for them to write you a letter of invitation. For some Schengen countries, once your host has written you a letter of invitation, they also may have to go to like the municipal council in their area to just kind of get a stamp, or just to as a supplement to that letter of invitation. So it's a whole bunch of processes depending on the country. So if someone has invited you to go visit them in Europe, just tell them to write you an invitation letter. If they don't know exactly what to put in that letter of invitation, you can always contact us for a template or just the basic guidance on the kind of details. But just to put it out there, generally it's things like their name, their full names, that is, um, and their physical address, or where they reside, yeah, I think that's sufficient information on their end. They can also attach things like their driver's license or their passport. Um, yeah, and then it should also include your details. So that's your passport number, your names, your address in Kenya, and of course, it should be addressed to you because it's a letter of invitation. It's addressed to you, and you should also write one that is addressed to the embassy that you're applying to. So, today I want us to talk about what to do if a Schengen visa has been refused. Um, I think one of the saddest or most disheartening things that can happen is applying for a visa and being very excited about, a trip to one of the European countries, and for some reason or another the embassy refuses your visa. Maybe you had already made plans, and even if you hadn't made plans like buying a flight ticket or booking a hotel, the fact that you've psychologically prepared to make this trip makes it very disheartening. And the other thing is that it also just leaves a bad record on your passport. That record will always be there, that you ever tried to apply for a visa, maybe to Germany or to France or to Spain or to Italy or to Greece, and it has been refused in the past. So it's not a really nice thing to experience. But if you have previously applied for that type of a visa and it's been denied, then this video is for you. Let's look at what can you do. Some people ask, how much time should I wait before making another application? Because for some people, once you get a refusal, some people want to make another application immediately to try and correct that, and some people just feel so discouraged and are like, I don't want to go through this again. I've spent a lot of money in this application, I've put my emotions here, and it's just a bad disappointment. But it's not the end of the world. So let us look at the very first thing that you can do once your visa has been refused or your application has been denied. Now, there are two ways that we can come to this kind of reality. The first one is, there are two categories of people. Yeah, the first category is people who have actually done a very meticulous application. You thought that you put in everything they needed to see, you prepared all the documentation, you gave them all the evidence, you answered all the questions truthfully, and you provided as much information as possible, and you probably even do not intend to overstay there or even stay longer than your intended purpose, and your visa still gets denied. So there's that category of people. And of course there's the category of people who, even while they were making the application, they were probably not sure about what they were doing, or maybe it was their first time filling in the applications. Some of these applications are not even in English, so it might have been a daunting task to even just fill in the application. It was the first time, they're not sure if they put in all the details, if they did it right, or they already know that they are missing some documentation, and maybe they're just, sometimes you just want to try and see if you could get lucky. So either way, whether you're the kind of person who had initially made an application and you put in all your information and you are almost sure that you're gonna get the visa, or you are just trying your luck, or you maybe were not so sure, or you kind of expected a refusal, either way, a refusal is a refusal, and it feels bad for either category of people. So the first thing you can do is to understand the reason for the refusal. Now, when you get a refusal, whichever country you could be trying to apply to, and if you've done this, you know that as soon as you get that response, it comes with that refusal letter that states clearly all the reasons that they have denied you the visa. So just go through that refusal letter thoroughly. If you need help from a consultant or an agent or an expert to understand the reasons that they have stated below, you can always give us a call or give any other agent a call and tell them, can we sit down, and I got this refusal letter, can we go through it and try and understand why it has been refused, because that is the very first step, understanding why it's been refused, so that next time you can correct those mistakes that you have previously made. So the first step is to understand why it's been refused. If it's not in English, if it's in another language and you cannot read it, just use Google to translate the document, read through the reasons. They always attach reasons. Sometimes they attach reasons that are very generic. You can't really be sure, does this relate to me, or is this a reason that you give to everybody? And that is why you should always consult someone. Just talk to somebody in case you need help understanding why it's been refused. And the second thing you can do, well, now before we even go to the second thing you can do, some of the main most common reasons that they deny this kind of visas, and this is according to my experience, is the fact that they do not think that you do genuinely intend to come back to your home country before your visa expires. I think that's actually how they put it, word for word. So, and that is the main most common reason that I see them issuing to us. They don't think that you're coming back, and why would they arrive to that kind of a conclusion? And the main reason is usually because you lack social and economic ties to your home country. Now, I'm assuming that I'm speaking to, if I say where your home country, I mean your country of citizenship for most people. Like where you were born is probably where you're still living at. Or if you're in a foreign country or in a different country from the country that you were born at, then they probably assume that you're in that country because you're working there, maybe, or you have a spouse from there, so maybe you have some sort of residency. Either way, they need to see that you will be coming back to your home country, and just prove using your financial you have financial proof that you will be coming back to your home country. And some of the things include things like having a job in your home country. I've spoken about this before, so I'm just gonna go through it really fast. So things like having a job in your home country, or a business, or you're a student. So as long as, if you say you're a student, then you provide the evidence to show that you're a student, or you're in business, or you have a job, maybe your pay slips, your contract, what you do for a living. And then now that's when you attach even things like your bank statements, your pay slips, just to show that you do have financial ties, because if you had a job, then you would be coming back home to your job. It should be waiting for you. And obviously things like now social ties are your family. It could be your family, your parents or your siblings, your grandparents, or your wife, your children, so if you attach things like marriage certificate or birth certificates for your children, that proves that you do have ties, or you do have a reason to come back to your home country. You can also now go ahead and attach things like title deeds. You can attach your sales agreements if you are into stocks or any other kind of investments that you may have. Basically, just show them that you have a life to come back to here back to your country. I'm not gonna say here in Kenya, because I have realized that our audience is growing bigger and bigger. So basically, just show them that you do have a reason to come back to your home country. If you do not have, if you're like a bachelor, or you're not married yet, or a single person, and the only family you can have is probably your parents or a sibling here and there, you can always attach those documents. Don't just assume that because you're not married or because you don't have children, you don't have anything to attach. Please attach the IDs for your parents, for your siblings, and that will go along with this. These things are called supporting documents, and they really, really do support your case. Now, so once they tell you that they don't think you'll be coming back to your home country, you now need to narrow it down to understand exactly what is making them think that you will not be coming back to your home country. Sometimes when you don't, you can have a job, you can have a job, a formal job with a pay slip and a contract and all that, but if you're not making a certain amount of money, then it becomes an issue. So you can have a job and you have all those documents, but if they see that you're probably making 100,000 or less per month, they might feel that it's still not sufficient reason for you to come back to your home country, because they're like, if you went there and you found a better paying job, then there'd be no reason for you to come back to your, poorly paying job in your home country. So those are the kind of things that you also need to look at. Again, with your statement, it's not just about how much bank balance do you have, it also, they check things like the inflow. Like when you say that this and this company is what employs you, there should be a very very clear distinction in the bank statement that, oh, every end month or every period, money flows from this company to your bank account, and then you spend a little to pay your bills, and maybe some is left in the account. And most importantly, because you're going there for tourism, I'm assuming you should have sufficient funds to sustain yourself in that country. After you've paid your flight ticket and you've paid your hotel booking or Airbnb or whatever kind of accommodation you're having, how much is left in your bank account? And I've always used this method to do the calculations, and I always tell people, if assuming you spend 150 euros per day, now do that math times the number of days you'll be staying there, and then you can get a rough estimate of how much money would they like to see. But I'm just gonna say anything less than probably $1,000 might be a red flag. You can even get the visa here at the embassy, but when you travel and you land to that country and you're at immigration, and then they check and they just kind of get suspicious. Sometimes they just get suspicious, maybe because you're black and you're in a European country, and they just, you stick out of the crowd, so they just call you and they kind of want to confirm your genuine intention of visiting those countries. And they ask you things like, can we see your proof of funds, where are you going, do you know who you're going to visit? So if you can't even produce the name of the person, or they call that person and that person on the other end is like, I'm not gonna support them 100%, they're like, okay, then do you have enough money? Actually, they ask you how much money do you have, so please be truthful at the airports, because once they ask you how much money you have, they're gonna go and confirm. And how they do that is they ask you, so how much money do you have? And you're there like, yeah, $5,000. Okay, really? All right. Is it in your credit card or your debit card? And you probably carried your debit card or your credit card, and they're like, okay, do you mind showing that? So they take you to the ATM and they stand there with you as you put in your pin and you check your balance. And so once they ask you these kind of questions, the best thing to do is be honest. But please don't carry little money, because again, you don't want to risk traveling all the way, probably 18, 19, 20 hours flight. And then when you get to France, for example, Paris, they just won't let you leave the airport, and it's not deportation, but they really return you back to your home country. So you can imagine, for me, I think about that because it's something I have seen a couple of times in my line of work. And I think the worst part for me about being traveling all the way, probably 18 hours, maybe you've had so many connecting flights. If you left Nairobi, then you went to Ethiopia, then you went to Dubai or Qatar, and then you connected it now to finally to Paris. Oh, I can only imagine. That's a very, I don't know about you guys, but I get very very exhausted while flying. I actually don't like flying because of just how exhausted I am by the time I'm landing there, and I'm not able to sleep on the plane. So for me, it's usually just torture. So I can only imagine flying for 18 countries to Serbia. Yeah, to Serbia. It's now in the Schengen region. You fly 18 hours to a country like Serbia, or or even Italy, all the way from Nairobi, and you get there and then they return you back to Nairobi. I mean, that could total to 30 something or more than 40 hours of flight. that is so much torture on the human body. I don't think it should be legal because they put you on the next available flight. First they detain you. You kind of treated like a criminal, like someone who's been caught with drugs or something, and then they return you back to your home country on the next available flight. So you get very, very exhausted. And not, let's not also talk about all the money that you've wasted, because flight tickets are not cheap, and all the plans, I mean, it's not something anybody would want to go through. They'd rather even deny it here in Nairobi than grant you the visa and then you travel all the way only for you to be sent back. And so what I'm trying to say is, just carry enough money, because in case they don't ask everybody, but in case they single you out or they suspect something and they ask you questions and you can't prove it, then you're gonna be sent back, and you don't want that to happening to you. Now, after the second step after understanding why your visa was denied is now to gather additional documentation. So for most times, the reason why your visa has been denied is because you probably didn't provide all the documentation that they needed to see. So now gather what you did not provide so that you can now make a better comprehensive case for yourself. So if it was about insufficient funds, put in some money. If you do not provide enough ties to your home country, correct that. Okay, it's very it's not very wise to submit a second application after denial without making any changes. You should expect you're gonna get denied again. So once you get a refusal and you want to try again, make your case different. You have to show that your circumstances have changed, or you have now provided information that they had not previously considered. Okay, now the other thing could be, and also something else in that category, there is some travel insurance that sometimes you can buy, and this is why I always advise you, please use someone who knows what they're doing. There's some travel insurance that you will buy when you're traveling to certain countries in Europe, or let me just say Europe, and then you realize it doesn't even cover Europe. They could deny your visa because of something like that. So always confirm with your insurance company where you're buying the travel insurance from, and ask them, does this insurance of yours cover Europe, Iceland, Antarctica? Just confirm, because some of them, sometimes you want the cheapest travel insurance you can get, and then you realize this one does not even get to Europe, so you get denied for something as simple as that. Now, the other thing you can do, the next step is to consider an appeal, and I think this is the most important part of this conversation today, is doing an appeal vis-a-vis making another application. I've always been asked, what do I do? Do I make an appeal, or do I just make another visa application? Which is better? Which one is the smarter move? Because at the end of the day, whether you used an agent or you did the application by yourself, at the end of the day, the goal is to get you that visa. Now, what you need to understand about making an appeal is, the only time you make an appeal is if you feel that your case has been wrongly judged. That's the only time. So you have to be very, very sure that you provided everything they need to see, and they have unfairly judged your case, and that is how they've come to that conclusion. Otherwise, if there is even reasonable doubt why your visa should not be granted, then making an appeal is pointless, because you make an appeal to tell them to review your case as it is, review your case as it was submitted, because you feel that there are some things they did not consider and they ought to have considered, or maybe there's some documentation you provided and they overlooked that information, or they probably just did not understand your story, or where you're coming from, or your intention of asking for that visa. But if there's any reason why that visa was denied, and it is rightfully so, then you can't make an appeal, because it doesn't make any sense. You just have to make another application, but do it better this time round. I don't know, I hope you guys are understanding what I'm saying. And if you'd like me to clarify further, just write it in the comments down below. So you only make an appeal if you feel that you've been unfairly judged and you want them to reopen that case and reconsider you. Now, for most embassies, an appeal can either be made not more than 15 or 30 days after the decision has been made. So with an appeal, you don't have much time. So you have to decide pretty early on whether you want to go the appeal way, or you just want to make another visa application, or you just want to kind of forget about it and move on to another country. So now, if you had applied for a visa maybe in January and we're already in March, it's too late to make an appeal, but it's not too late to make another visa application. So as soon as you get your refusal letter, decide, do I want to make an appeal or do I want to make another application, depending on the circumstances. Now, I think at this point you probably really might need to speak to an expert or a specialist to just guide you and look at your refusal letter and be able to interpret and say, okay, yeah, this one we can make an appeal because I also feel that you are unfairly judged and I would want them to review your case. Or I'll just tell you, hii yako, you didn't offer so much information, I'm not surprised they denied you the visa. So just talk to someone and then make a decision. For appeals, they do take some time before they are, well, you get a response, because for some appeals they have to be done at their countries of origin. A panel has to do it. So appeals can take anywhere between maybe 3 weeks all the way to, I know appeals that have lasted for 2 years. So appeals take some time. It's like a court proceeding, you know, it's like a court case. These things take time. Now for appeals, there are very many channels depending on the country, but now that we're talking about Schengen today, for Schengen appeals you just need to do a formal appeal letter, and then you send it to the embassy with all the supporting documents, the original documents, and in your appeal letter you need to clearly state things like why the visa was denied, and why you feel that it was not supposed to be denied. Also give a whole list of all the documents that you had submitted, attach more if you need to, but it has to sound very convincing, not argumentative, just convincing and also very direct, you know what I mean? So you're not begging, but you're trying to appeal to their humane side to reconsider your case, because as far as you're concerned, you gave them all the information they needed. You can also decide to reapply for the visa. So if you decide that you don't need to make an appeal, or you can even make an appeal and still get a refusal, you can now just consider making another visa application. Whether you apply immediately, like the day after getting a refusal, or 1 year, it really doesn't matter, and it doesn't affect the outcome of your visa application. As long as the second time or the third time or the fourth time you make an application, just make sure it's different from what you had previously submitted. You don't want to be redundant, because if they can see you submitted the same documents the same way, you know, like, what has changed? Why should they grant you the visa this time round? So it really doesn't matter. And just because you've been denied a visa 4 or 5 times doesn't mean that if you apply for the 6th time you can't get that visa. The only thing you need to do is not give up. Now, what I would also advise you to do after that is to seek professional assistance. And now this is where visa agents like myself come in. Once you get this kind of refusals, or you're trying to do an appeal, I would advise you not to do it by yourself, because, I mean, if you did your application the first time by yourself, maybe because you're trying to cut on cost, or you didn't even know that there are people who do these kind of things, maybe this time round you should seek for assistance. You know, don't you think it would be wiser to do that? So seek professional guidance and assistance. Embassies, once they give you your refusal letter, they don't allow you to just call them and ask them to review your case personally. So that is why you should always now just talk to an agent somewhere, sit down with the agent, look at your case, look at the documents you provided, and then see the way forward. And then now from there, The other thing that you should really do is to prepare for your interview. Now that you've been previously denied, you need to book an appointment at the embassy, prepare for your interview. In case there are questions to be asked, how will you answer those questions? How will you present yourself the next time? um, how will you be ready to explain the purpose of your trip, your travel plans? If you're gonna be there for 15 days, you need to write down exactly how you will be spending each and every single day of those 15 days. How do you plan to support yourself during the stay? Have you booked tickets? Have you booked the accommodation? What places will you be seeing, and what's waiting for you back home, right? The other thing you need to be very aware of, and one of the reasons why many visas are denied, especially those ones that seemingly had all the documents that were needed, is because of timing. Time is a very crucial thing in visa applications. I know some embassies says not to apply for visas way too ahead of your planned visit, but you also need to apply for your visa when you're giving the embassy enough time to make a decision. And I have personally seen this affect people that were going for very important business meetings or work trips, and they were refused visa simply because of the issue of time. The embassy officers do not need to feel like you're putting them under pressure to make a decision on your visa, unless it's an emergency visit, like for medical purposes or repatriation of a body. Otherwise, for visits and for business, they do not need to feel like you're pressuring them. Sometimes you can apply for a visa, say on 1st January, and then you say your trip is on 15th January. So you need to travel in 2 weeks' time. So you book even your hotel, for that period of time, 15th January, say to 20th January. Let's say you're only going to France for 5 days. And by the time the embassy, or by the time someone is reviewing your visa application, it's March. Do you think they're gonna give you a visa? Of course they're not gonna give you a visa. For most cases, I know there are exceptions, and yeah, you're lucky if you got it. But for most people that I have seen, is you are denied that visa simply because by the time this officer was about to make a decision on your case, it was pointless to travel anymore. So they're like, actually, and they give the reason of, yeah, you didn't book, we didn't see an accommodation, yet you had already booked an accommodation. It's only that time has already passed. So to have things work on your side and to give yourself a better chance, always make applications way in advance. I mean, try and plan, especially if you're going to visit a friend. Surely you have 6 months to plan ahead. You even have a whole year to plan ahead, because some of these embassies, like if you try Belgium or France or whichever, even Poland, especially Poland is so notorious for giving you appointments which are 7 months down the line. You know what I mean? So when you're doing your visa application and when you're planning to travel to Europe, maybe you're going for the Olympics or you're going to visit a boyfriend or a girlfriend, just try and lodge that application in advance, so that you don't put yourself under pressure, or you don't start getting stressed about, I don't have an appointment at the embassy, I was supposed to go there in March, the next appointment is in April, and you're just like, I'm gonna miss out on this because I won't even have time to go to the embassy and get my visa and get to travel. However, I have handled cases where the clients needed very expedited appointments. Like someone can come on a Monday and they're like, I'm traveling next week Monday, so I need to go to the embassy like tomorrow, the day after. And as much as an agent can help you get an expedited date of appointment, it's always better if you can help it to just plan ahead. But I understand that there's some emergency cases, there's some situations where your boss just tells you need to travel to Portugal next week, and you're like, wow, the next date of appointment is next year. How do I do that? That's why you should always contact an agent. So that is a service that I offer, expedition of appointments at the embassy. So because my point is to help you however way I can. So if I can get you a date of appointment earlier, then I can help you get your visa. Like there's one visa that I recently did for Switzerland, and I wasn't also sure that she was gonna get it, simply because, I mean, anyway. But yeah, she did get the visa, we did get the appointment, and I was very happy for her. And so every time you find yourself that you don't have much time and you need to go to the embassy, just contact us. Now, the final thing and in conclusion is to just stay positive. Yes, that's the final thing I have to say. Stay positive, because it's not the end of the world. I know in the moment it feels like your world has crashed and it feels like it's the end of the world, but trust me, there are worse things that can happen to you in this world besides being denied a visa. Even if it was for work or a scholarship, it's really not the end of the world, simply because you can always apply again and again and again, unless you have been banned from applying for a visa, maybe because you are using fraudulent documents, or you did something that is, like you something illegal. For most cases, you can always apply for a visa, so it's not the end of the world. Don't be discouraged. I mean, you can just have your moment and feel bad for that day, but bounce back immediately. And if you still want to travel, if it's still your dream, then you just have to try again and again and again, mpaka work. So it's not the end of your travel dreams. I had actually typed this. And by understanding the reasons of the refusal, gathering the necessary documentation, and carefully reapplying or appealing, you can improve your chances of obtaining a visa. With the right preparation and persistence, your European adventure can still become a reality. So, whether it's Europe, today, yes, we're talking about Schengen, but whether it's Europe, Canada, UK, USA, or Australia, New Zealand, just because you've gotten a refusal doesn't mean that you'll never ever go to that country. Now, the good thing with Schengen countries is that once, or if they have denied you a visa to, maybe say you had applied to Belgium, as you're only even just point of entry, or Belgium and France and Italy, you can always try. There's 26 or something like, and the list keeps growing as the years go by. You can always try another list. So you can try this time round to get through Estonia, or you can try Italy, or you can try Poland. You know what I mean? So at least with the Schengen region, it gives you that freedom and flexibility, that if this one has shut the door for you, try this one, try this one, try this one. Eventually kuna moja itakukubali. And we're gonna make another video of the easiest and the most difficult countries to get visas in the Schengen region, and these are based on studies and statistics that have been taken, probably say over the last 2 or 3 years, or just one last year. And then we can see last year how many visas were denied for France versus how many were granted. How many were denied for Estonia, how many were granted. Some embassies or some countries have a 97% chance of approval. So that means that almost everybody who lodges an application with them gets their visa. And some countries are just very notorious for granting the visas. It's almost out of 100 people, they only give 7. So the majority, okay, 7 is a bit, yeah, 7 is a little low, but maybe out of every 100 people, maybe they see 100 people per day, maybe they only issue 25, a quarter. So the majority of the people will be denied. So depending on the country that you're applying to, of course you have to be diligent either way. But if you're applying to a notoriously difficult countries, which is very easy to know, because you can always hear people complaining that, oh yeah, mimi nimenyimwa visa, I've been denied a visa, I've been denied a visa, then you can always have an idea that, oh, okay, that country is notorious for denying visas. That means, because they are very strict, that means that you have to be very, very articulate in your application, and you have to give them all the information. You cannot leave room for doubt, or for them to even think of denying your visa. Now, visas are not guaranteed. Unfortunately, you can be the most prepared person, you can have all the documents they need to see. You can have a genuine reason for visiting and a genuine reason for coming back. You can have social and economic ties. You can have millions of money in your bank account, but you will still get denied a visa. With visas, it's almost like some people are just lucky in this life and some people are not very lucky, because there are some people who barely met the requirements. But I think we all know someone who has applied for a visa just like that, kimchezo mchezo, and they got it, and now they're in Europe, right? And we also know people who are extremely qualified, they are probably even traveling for work, but it keeps getting denied over and over and over again. So um, I know as a professional, I'm not supposed to base my arguments on some people are lucky, some people are not lucky, but that's the reality. I deal with human beings, and human beings are energies, and I can tell you for a fact that some people just get the visas, some people don't get the visas, but with an agent or with a specialist, you have a better chance at getting it. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying it's 100%. If you use our services, you'll get the visa, but you're 97% chance you will get your visa. Sometimes I also tell people it just wasn't meant to be. I know you really wanted to travel, but life had other plans for you and it just wasn't meant to be. But we can try again, and you can get lucky and you find yourself that, oh, now I've gotten the visa after being denied 3 times. So that concludes our video for today. I don't think there's anything else I've left out, but if there is, just type your questions in the comment section. I'll be sure to reply to them. So thank you so much, guys, for your support. Thank you for the calls that I'm getting. And our office is at Gigiri, Nairobi, Eaton Place, second floor at the UN Crescent or UN Avenue. If you're new to that locality, or if you're new in Kenya, it's near the American Embassy. So if you can get to the American Embassy, then you can easily find yourself to our office. So thank you so much, and God bless you. Bye. Oh, I have this. Oops.